Happy Monday. I want to welcome you all to A Word with the Wife Coach. I know some of you all are just starting to see this pop up on your timeline, so I'll give you a few minutes to get it situated. Grab your popcorn, grab your boo, get it together. I hope it's been a great Monday for you. Grab your libations, whatever will get you comfortable and in the spirit of conversing with us. Please do that. But I'm CC, your wife coach, and I'm really glad you joined me this evening, because we are going to be talking about something that you saw me post about last week. And I just want y'all to see how God works. I posted about, so when are you guys going to start having some children? And a lot of you all were like, oh my gosh, this is the post. I'm telling it on the mountain. This is some really good stuff. And then here, my good friends, Fern and Christopher, we ran into them on Saturday, and they are now new parents. And Fern just got to pouring out her heart. And I was like, you know what? This is some good follow-up to that blog post. So I wanted to invite them in this evening and just talk to us candidly about what's really going on with this whole parenting thing. Because I'm going to tell you something. Some of y'all out there make it sound real beautiful and glorious, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But we know that there's a dark side to it too, to an extent. So we want to hear about it all, the good, the bad, because honestly, there are some of us out here who are really thinking about having children, and we need to think about it from a very holistic perspective, not just from the standpoint of, I just want to have children for the rest of my life. Some of us want to have big families. Some of us don't want to have any. And wherever you are, it's okay. Please know that it is okay. It doesn't mean that you're without purpose if you don't have children. But tonight we're going to be talking about the bare naked truth about starting a family, about becoming parents. Bucket naked truth. And I want to thank hubby here, Tristen Sutton Productions over here. He's over here handling everything behind the scenes. He's going to be talking to y'all. Yes, already. We ain't even started. This is going to be a good hour, I promise you. But please talk to us. We want to have some dialogue with you. Tristen Sutton over here will be having some conversation with you online on Facebook Live. So without further ado, let's get started. And thank you again for joining us tonight. So Fern and Christopher, man, this couple right here, y'all tell them a little bit about Fern and Christopher prior to what, 8 weeks ago? 8 weeks ago. 8 weeks ago. Tell us real quick in a snapshot how y'all met, what y'all do, and kind of just the transition that we're in.
He didn't know it had been 8 weeks. He was like, "Oh, is that how old the baby is?"
I was like,
Already.
Oh, wait. It feels like a lot longer.
8 years.
So how we met, Fern and I went to law school together. We weren't actually there at the same time. I was studying in South Africa at the time, or doing a program in South Africa. I was an ambassadorial scholar. And then I came back and I heard about these lovely group of ladies that had come on campus. And she just so happened to be one of them. We still didn't really meet, but we both ended up being in South Africa at the same time. The next year, got to know each other and became really good friends. And then over the course of the next 2 years, we started dating when I was in Arkansas.
He asked me to DVR one of his favorite shows, and that was his excuse to come over to my apartment.
What you say? You got to get in where you fit in. Sometimes it be like
he didn't have a DVR.
That was the original Netflix and chill, right?
That was Netflix and chill before Netflix and chill. Except she's a lady. It didn't quite go down like that.
It did not.
Not then.
Not the first time anyway.
Not until we were married.
Beautiful.
Hey,
Don't y'all believe it for a second. We came on here to be honest. Okay?
All right, here we go. So South Africa met 2 years. Y'all dated about?
No.
18 months. He was ready. He wanted to lock this down.
We dated like 3-4 years.
Oh, maybe
10, 11, 12.
Until you proposed.
But 3.5 years.
It's all a blur now. We have a kid. We don't know.
How did 18 months? Did he just send your
But
heart
I don't know
into
where she got
overdrive?
18 months from. Like, it was definitely like 3.5 years.
It was so much fun, maybe.
You
It was
just
not
ready
so
to
fast.
put a ring on it.
We started dating October 2010. How about this?
Okay.
And then you proposed in December 2012.
Okay.
So whatever that is,
I'm not. So some people set out like their whole life. They're like, you know what I want to do? I want to get married. I want to have kids. For me, and anybody who knows, people were shocked when I was like, this is it. Like, I'm gonna get married. Because the way that I live my life is very like, you know what? Today I'm feeling like maybe I want to go to London. Maybe I want to go to Singapore. And literally I'd leave the country.
Wow.
So, it was never part of my thought process to get married. But when I met Fern, she was just so special, and I never had a
Amazing.
connection then and to this day like the one that I have with her.
Nothing like
It's hilarious.
Now these things have changed with children, or with a kid, but yeah.
Sure.
It's still fantastic. And the long smile.
So what I love about them though is that, you know, he said that he used to travel and do all these things, but then when they got married, they even just continued.
Oh, yeah.
We did.
Continued to see the world. How long did y'all do that?
We did until we got pregnant. So, but in all honesty, yes, we did a lot of. When we started dating, we did a lot of traveling together. We've been to, I think, all but maybe 2 continents together,
Wow.
1 continent together. We haven't been to Antarctica.
Right.
No, so we've only not been to Antarctica together. So we've been everywhere else together. And so, anyways, that continued through when we first got married. Our first year of marriage, even though we were doing a lot of traveling, it was a lot of adjusting. So we had a rough first year.
Sure.
But when I tell you year 2, we got in a groove. Year 3 was amazing. Year 4 was like amazing. So we were like on this 2-year stretch of things just being perfect. And, you know, I knew going into the marriage that Fern wanted to have kids, and like, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm okay
with that. Let's sit there for a second. Okay.
I knew from the beginning it wasn't top priority.
That ain't what you put on the application.
Uh-oh.
I want to say you check the I want to have kids box, but I'm okay if we don't box also.
Okay, we can roll with that.
Okay.
So it's just like a legal form or a Google Doc?
It was the application for marriage to Fern.
Okay.
It's all right. So we were going to have kids at some point. So we, you know, we had such a good, you know, well, almost 3 years, like
Right.
just a perfect traveling everywhere, madly in love, like, you know, relationships have ebbs and flows, which people also don't talk about a lot.
Right.
And we were on one of the flows, like a really great one.
No Evan.
So, you know, the conversation of kids had been kind of floating around for 2 years before we decided to have it. Decided to, you know, embark on actually getting pregnant and having a child. And we felt like we were well positioned to do it. Our businesses, you know, we're both in a great place. We were both in a great place, and we're like, now is the time. So we could just bring him in to all this love.
So y'all acknowledged it. Okay, now's the time to pull the trigger. Wasn't no oops, oh surprise.
No.
Very
None
planned.
of
He was
Very
very
planned.
planned.
very planned.
We
That's
even
good.
went to our counselor, Dr. Morris, who I think, you know, has had a really big role in helping us have a healthy marriage. And we had a conversation with him about, hey, we're thinking about having kids, you know, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, like, can do kids, cannot do kids. Fern definitely wants to do kids. And then this is what he said. And this is kind of like what set the tone for me, at least. Fern can tell you how she felt, like saying, this is it. So Fern and I are both extraordinarily charitable. We give tens of thousands of dollars a year. We sponsor individuals. We sponsor, you know, communities. Like, we do as much as we can. We try and be thoughtful with our businesses as well.
Right.
So across the board. So we're, in our minds, we're like, we're good citizens. We're global citizens. And what our counselor said, he's like, you know what? He's like, you guys do all of these things, but it's always on your schedule. If you're donating, it's on your schedule. He's like, if you're helping somebody out, it's on your schedule because you want to. He said, so ultimately, there's still a selfish aspect about doing all of those great things. He said the most selfless thing and unselfish thing you can ever do is have a kid, because that's one of the times, especially for people who have their stuff together, that's like one of the few times where literally the control is taken out of your hands and you're actually functioning, you know, for somebody else, regardless of whether or not you want to.
That's so true.
So I was like, wow, that's so powerful, you know, to think that, you know, not only would I be, you know, adding positively to, you know, communities of people who look like us, but that also I'd be doing something really selfless. And, you know, now that I have a kid, I really understand how selfless. And, you know, you think hard and long.
More
before you're ready to
selfless
be
than
that
getting
selfless.
married, you would say?
Bye.
On another level. On another level.
Let me talk to you. So, here, I'm going to stop talking. I feel like you go ahead.
He can be married to me. I can still feed myself and bathe myself and everything else. So this is way more selfless because you have this person that can do none of these things. But yeah, that sat with me too. When we went to our therapist and talked about, hey, we're thinking about having kids. What do you think? I felt exactly the same with Christopher, so I won't belabor the point. It was like, you know, I hadn't thought of it that way because we think of ourselves as selfless people and we care about our friends and our loved ones and, you know, or what have you. But the way when he put it in context was like, wow. So we knew we decided we were ready to embark on this journey to like bring a child into the world and see how that stretched us. Because what our therapist did say, and Christopher didn't mention them, was he thought that, you know, we don't really know our peak and our parameters because everything we're doing is on our own schedule. And one of the things he said was having a child will stretch you and grow you in ways beyond what you think you've already done. And I was up for that challenge. I wanted children for sure. Christopher was kind of I would say, not I mean, kind of indifferent, but more so like we can, we can't, we cannot. And during our 4.5 years of marriage, when we were childless, and we would talk about it, the conversation, like, what if I'm infertile? What if you're sterile? What if,
I knew I wasn't sterile.
Oh, my
okay.
goodness.
I hit it out the park our time, all right?
The ants go marching one.
Wait. I want to know, did y'all have this conversation prior to getting married, or about an infertility, the possibility prior or after y'all got married?
I think we've had so many friends that have struggled with infertility kind of since we've been together. So I think that it was always a part of our conversation. Like that might be real. Right. I just made that joke, but no, there are people who seriously, there are guys who suffer with infertility. There are women who suffer with infertility. Right. And, although there are many kind of ways that, you can work it out now. And I feel like every day I hear about something new. Right. We knew that it was a real possibility that, by the time we actually had kids, I was 35 and she was 32. So, when you're talking to doctors about when your real prime window is, it's like, especially for women, it's in your 20s.
Right, yeah. Right. If I can add this in there real quickly, I wanted to emphasize the importance of having that conversation. There are so many people, we're not going to get into why people get married, but we know that one of the reasons why people do get married is to have children. And so if you're saying, I'm getting ready to say I do to this person, what if that person can't have children? Yeah. She doesn't know, he doesn't know. It's really, really important. They're saying now it's so important to have that conversation even in the engagement period. Yeah. Because if it depends on how important it is to you, you may decide I can't really make it. This is
what I told. So in my life, and this is just me, and I'm not knocking anybody who's been on, a 10 or 20 year journey of having kids. Mm-hmm. In my life, I strongly believe in, staying kind of in the lane that kind of God puts me in and making it work. So what Fern and I decided was that, look, we're going to give this a year after, because after we'd had many conversations about many things, we're going to give it a year. If it doesn't happen in a year, we'll try one round of doing something else. Right. If that isn't it, we're done. Okay. And we're just going to be somebody else's blessing. Okay. So, but that's what we decided on. I respect and admire people who have it in them to do decades. I know people who've done decades of trying to get pregnant. I didn't want that for us, because not to say that those people didn't marry each other simply out of love, but I married Fern because I wanted to be with Fern. I didn't marry Fern thinking about kids, period. So for us, it was different. And I told Fern this all the time. And one of the things that I'm sure we'll end up talking about is that I liked our hookup, and I didn't want our hookup to change with a child. Now, I was crazy. I was crazy to think that we'd stay the same, but I was like, no, we're going to make this work. We're going to hire help, and, we're going to make this work, and we're going to still travel and do everything we want to. Maybe we will someday, but clearly that's not what's happening.
That ain't what Malcolm said. Hold on. Someday we have a trip planned in August with the baby like Christopher.
Domestic.
These passport people right here.
Anyway, I'd like to finish my thoughts before Christopher wanted to let America know that he's fertile, he's virile or whatever. TMI. No, so yeah, we also felt like it would be a better use of our resources and our money, right? We're very charitable, and we have thoughts about, the wealth that we're trying to build and what we want to do with it. So we also didn't want to spend, 20, 30, 40, even hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get pregnant when there are children out there who need to be adopted, if that's what we wanted to do, or if we wanted to invest that money in godchildren or in our businesses and community things that we endeavored. So we had that conversation. We'll try this naturally for a year, then we'll maybe try a little intervention if we need to. And if it's not working out, we would just move on from it. Right. So that didn't happen. We were blessed. We were able to get pregnant relatively quickly.
2 months.
So, yes, 2 months. 2 months. 5 days and 30 seconds. 2 months. And we only had sex twice.
Now, once a month.
The naked truth.
No, listen, when we got serious about it, we knew Fern's schedule, and didn't we?
Yes, I did. I didn't know this was where.
I thought we were being honest and telling the whole truth.
Be very honest. And
I'm happy to be honest, but now we're on a fertility channel.
It's all a part of the conversation.
Listen, getting pregnant when you're over 30 can be a lot like, hamster sex. Is that where you want to go with this? Like, you got to schedule it. It's got to be quick and to the point. Oh, right?
Not nobody said that. Because let me talk to you about my love.
There's windows and times and calendars and all this kind of stuff.
Ain't nobody quick about that.
Let me take a pause for them real quickly. How are we doing over here? How are we doing?
How do I share this? This should take place well before engaged, but Ricky and Don are laughing at the quickness of the fertility.
And she said #hamster sex. I mean, we did promise you we would be very, very frank about this
I
conversation.
it was like rabbits, but hamsters are
No,
maybe
but let
quicker.
me just say this. It made me wonder, really, when I truly started this journey to get pregnant, like, how are, like, 16-year-olds doing it? Like, and
Right.
getting pregnant, like, right away. Like, it is
Well, because they're
right.
extra fertile and they're having a whole lot of sex.
Mm.
Look, we got businesses to run.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, work to do.
But anyway, so I forgot where I was going.
That's okay.
You guys get the point. That's something we talked about, and we did intentionally spend at first when we got married, we thought we'd take a year or 2 years. It ended up being 4, and we were just enjoying ourselves and building our businesses, and it just never quite was at the right time. And like Christopher said, we finally got to a place where it was the right time. We felt like we were in a very happy place in our marriage.
Right.
We were where we wanted to be financially, and then there's also a clock ticking thing. Like I was like, okay, in 2018 I'll be 35. Like we should go ahead and get this done because we would have more than one.
Were people already asking y'all, when are y'all gonna have some babies? When y'all gonna have some babies?
They were asking us that.
Ernest from the islands, they were
way.
asking us that like literally the night we got married. They're like, so when do the babies come?
Okay, so it wasn't a game. Y'all were already dealing with
And
that
then
pressure.
when we didn't have babies year 1, year 2, what happened? Is something wrong with your husband? You're premature.
Look at the accent.
Yeah.
I love it.
There was a
So-
lot of that going on.
So I always want to interject. I think that people that are always asking where the baby is,
Yeah.
you should in return ask where the donations are.
Real
What's
talk.
the sponsorship?
Who's gonna help me pay for
Where's the
this
pack of diapers?
Diapers in the daycare. DD.
Listen. We know now that we have a full-time nanny and like all the things. I mean, this kid has more stuff than Christopher and I do collectively.
I know when we were out and about, y'all were going around telling everybody, you didn't tell us what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
You didn't tell
You
us
lied.
we are no longer friends.
We're not.
You lied as well.
Yeah.
What were people telling y'all to expect about parenting and having children? What were they telling
Nothing. So this is what. Okay. So I want to just give a disclaimer because I want this conversation to stay on topic. So this isn't we love our son very much. We love each other.
I mean, I'm still getting to know him.
That's honest.
I mean, I'll protect him
That's
and that
fine.
whole thing, and I'll provide him a home and but we still
But
got.
you're not quite sure.
Because
We
he's like,
gotta
I don't know
talk,
this
like,
brother.
We vibe.
Like, I of course feel more of a connection, which is normal. Sometimes and I'm sure mothers out there can attest to this. Sometimes you feel more connected to your child
Because
than
she
your
had
husband.
9-10 months with him.
Right.
So, while I'm joking to a certain extent, there's a lot of truth in what I'm saying. Like literally, there's this guy who's now in my house who has changed completely the dynamic between my wife and I, who, has restricted my ability to move around freely.
Were you expecting any of that?
Not like this.
Okay. What part was the part that was like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that?
Man. I mean,
being awakened
all of it.
every 2 hours.
Yeah. Like all of it. I had no idea that he would be in our bedroom. I had no idea that literally like he would be in between physically my wife and I.
Wow.
I had no idea. Right. So there's the physical in between us, and then there's the, he's still kind of in between us because we're trying to raise him. So
He needs my attention constantly. So, there's not, when I put him down to bed, let's say for one of the sets of 2 hours that he's going to sleep, and then Christopher's over there giving me those looks. I'm looking at him like, brother, I'm going to sleep.
I don't know what you're going to do, but all right.
It doesn't matter what. I don't want to talk about anything.
That's real.
So how about this? Let's go back.
real.
Let's go back to the beginning, right?
Okay.
So when we were first, we had a conversation. Let's get pregnant. Saw a counselor. So we're deciding to do this. We do it. We're pregnant. Thrilled. Like I remember the
He said it
day.
was the happiest day of his life. I'll never forget when I showed him the pregnancy.
It was, but now that he's here, I'm like, But telling the truth.
That's real.
Telling the truth. So no, it really was. It was the happiest day of my life. There's a sense of accomplishment definitely that comes along with knowing that you have a little one on the way. There's a sense of passing on legacy. There's a sense of, because I'm not really somebody, if you ask me something, I'll share information, but I'm not, one of these people who wants to go and pour into everybody
Right.
the information I have.
Right.
Not because I don't want to share information, but because I just don't have the time and the energy.
Sure.
But this is a situation like I look forward to pouring in all of the life knowledge that I've gotten and will get into him. So there are things like that are cool, right?
Right.
So that's great about it. Excited. So the pregnancy starts and it's cool, my wife and I used to have a good time. She likes tequila and, we go out and have drinks. And so that's kind of being taken away.
Sure.
And then, as the pregnancy, goes on, I hear people talking about, we're going to have a really conversation. Like they're like, oh, pregnancy sex is just the best. Let's talk about that. I think that, there's something great about, kind of the love that you're feeling for your wife in that moment. But unless you've been into like women who are pregnant, it's different. So if your husband was all on you while you were pregnant, he just might have a little something freaky going on. But like,
there are fetishes like that.
There are fetishes like that.
Some people are into it though.
Some people are into
judgment.
it. I was never into pregnant women.
Right.
So while I still love my wife and I still find myself very attracted to her, like
we just have to keep the room real dark.
The bump presented challenges, and it presented challenges for me, and then it presented challenges for her because there's an uncomfortableness to having a baby.
It feels like there's a third party. There's a baby there. It's kind of it's a thing. Like
that's real.
So I describe it as like, for those of you guys in project management, creep, right? So like when your schedule starts to creep, when things that you had planned for kind of start to change, and then all of a sudden your scope of work has gotten out of whack. So in our relationship, we had a very good understanding of who we were in our relationship and what we wanted from each other. We had gotten it down pat.
Right.
And so slowly things are changing where, we might be going out, but we can't have the fun that we used to. We might be intimate, but it's not the way it used to be. And then, she starts to dedicate, as she should, more and more of her attention towards this baby that's coming and on the way. And she wants to prepare a house or move us, she wants to nest, so there are all these things that start to kind of come in between
that no one is talked about.
That nobody's truly talked about.
Not even a counselor.
Not even a counselor.
Because honestly, all the friends that are like, hey, you need to have this baby. Go ahead, it's time. They don't tell you about all the other aspects.
Right.
Once you get off work now, it's little league, homework, teacher meetings, etc.
You wait.
Yeah. No, it's on y'all.
He said you wait.
So some of these things are things that you wish people would have told. And is there a book were you told to go read this resource?
I feel like the books like present this really positive, like everything is going to be great and this is the way you love your son. They're not really focusing on this is how you're going to feel and this is what's going to lack and change your relationship.
I think what that's about is, and I think if we can be really honest, nobody wants, having a child is truly the most wonderful thing. It is wonderful, right? Christopher made this joke on talking to some of his line brothers who've also had children. So those of you who are Greek, he's like, I hope this is as fulfilling, like, becoming an alpha afterwards,
Let me explain that because people aren't Greek. Of course, there's no hazing, so let's just put that out there.
No worries.
But if there was, that's a really tough period of time that you go through, right? And before you go through that, very intense time with becoming a part of an organization or becoming, going into this new level of something. If somebody would have told you before you started what all you were going to be in for, I'd have been like, no, absolutely not. I don't care who I'm going to meet, who I'm going to have connections with. I don't care about these. Right. You didn't know that? No, they shocked me. I was shell shocked. Like, bro. I was like, there's no way that goes on. I was like, I think I was kind of the same way. A friend of mine called me naive the other day. In certain ways, maybe I am naive. So, but this is the thing. So after I'm in it, so I'm in the process and, there's not a lot that you can do about it once you're in it. But then, you come out on the other side and you're like, you know what? While that was a really tough and crazy process, I'm so happy with all these relationships that I formed and the fact that I'm a part of something so great. I hope, because I'm not on the other side yet, right now I'm in the hazing stage. And if somebody would have told me before this started exactly what I'd be going through right now, I'd have been like, no, Fern and I are good. Like, our relationship is perfect. We're going to be single and we're going to mingle,
So every day you go home to Big Brother just us.
Right.
You go home to Big Brother similar.
Well, no, what's so crazy is we're not even, she's breastfeeding. So it's like, I feel like if it was similar, it'd be even better because at least I can have those parts back,
That's real.
That's the truth.
That's real.
That's true, but she's breastfeeding, so...
And for anybody who might be judging, I've already pumped for the rest of the day.
Oh, God.
People mom shame. I don't know why. But
that's real, too.
Just slow down, Facebook. We're good. Yeah, we're good.
So Mr. Darrell Douglas says, I love the honesty. If they would have told me from the beginning, I would have been like, no.
Right. No, Darrell, real talk. Like, seriously.
No, thank you.
So we were talking about, like, kind of the creep that starts to happen before the baby comes. And the closer and closer it gets to the date, there are all of these feelings of, like, an anxiety. For me, at least. Some people call it an anticipation. For me, it was like an anxiety because I had no idea truly what to expect. And so many things that had already gone on were so different. And then I think that, it's kind of well documented. People kind of know about, mom's emotions are going to change and mom is going to change. What nobody talks about is that men, especially men who live with the mother who's expecting, our hormones change as well. Yes. So now all of a sudden I find myself like being extra emotional, like I'm being a little sensitive, and I'm like, why do I feel this way? Like, and it crossed over into other parts of my life as well, not just at home. You know?
No one talks about that.
And nobody talks about it.
I've heard about men gaining pounds, but you look like you lost weight.
I'm down like 55, 60.
Come on.
I told him, I was like, you're trying to get sexy for the new model. Because I'm
just in case I need to move around, y'all.
I'm pregnant, you got a baby, you're going to move around. I got it. Whatever. But no, my doctor,
we over here making the single mommies. No,
it was either. Cut this off, America. We're done.
We'll be together forever.
Either my doctor or my doula shared with me that men who live with a woman who's pregnant, their testosterone levels lower, and the reason for that, scientists or whomever believe it. I haven't researched this, y'all, but this is according to her. So according to what she was saying, she's like, research suggests that it's to make the man less aggressive on the woman while she's pregnant for a few reasons, because you have to be able, a man has to be able to give his woman grace. She's probably going to be less interested in sex, although some women during pregnancy are more interested in sex, kind of depends, but it lowers his levels of testosterone. So he's more agreeable, he's more loving, and so his estrogen levels go up. And so for a man, what we didn't realize is in practice is that's actually confusing for the guy, because Christopher's like, I feel what's going on. Like, you're feeling some emotions come up in your chest. You're like, what is that? Because you're not used to that.
Like, real talk, I cried 3 times over the course of a pregnancy, and I'm not a crier.
Wow.
I can see that. So what you're telling me is during pregnancy, there's vaginal Jedi mind tricks.
Okay. All right. Get your notepads out.
Is that the scientific?
Vaginal Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. I have never heard of such a thing. And I'm so glad that y'all are willing to be candid about it, because there's some men out there that are probably beating themselves up like, man, I need to get together.
Because I'm crazy. And I remember Fern and I had this argument, and it made, like, it wasn't even like, I didn't feel like a serious one. And it made me so emotional. I'm like, what is this? So we were all supposed to be going to church that day. I let her go to church, and I stayed at home, and I got on my computer. I'm like, I'm going to figure out what is going on with me today. Because this can't be me. Like, I'm not gonna let me get my pillow and cry. I was literally in bed like, oh, Jesus, I just don't know.
You need to talk to me.
No, seriously. And I was like, she wants so much, and I'm like,
I wasn't there for that.
She wasn't there. And so, anyways, literally, I didn't pull out a laptop. I was like, I need to have like the CPU for this. So I went upstairs to the office area.
Did you talk to Jesus too?
I talked to Jesus. I got on. No joke. I literally prostrated myself. I got down on my face, my belly, like I got down and talked to God about it, because that's how it's feeling. Okay.
Such a mess. This is so real that you actually had to take the time to say, okay, I need to really figure this out. This is no longer.
Because I feel like I was losing it, and I'm not sure how honest you're willing to be.
And what about me telling you?
About like how I felt, like my mental state was, and what I felt.
You can share.
So. I was having,
because I think this is actually a really more helpful conversation for men and for husbands. Because women, let's be real, women, moms, we understand this 100%.
Right.
And I do think that what also makes it more difficult for the man, I'll let you get back to sharing, Christopher, is that we are. Let me share this. I have a cousin, and I'm not gonna say which one. But, if you're listening, you know who I am. I'm talking about, and I was texting her about, like, things between Christopher and I being different. And she kind of was like saying like PC things like, oh, well, just remind yourselves that you guys are on the same page, and, that you love each other, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then she texts back like 15 minutes later, and she's like, but if you want to know the truth, she's like, men are weak and they're not cut out for newborn life. So let's address that. I think in the very narrow context of taking care of, especially a newborn, where it doesn't speak, it can't tell you, like, women are designed to intuitively understand cries, what they need, and to kind of like nurture and all this. Men really aren't built for that. And if you look back in the history of like hunter-gatherer and like why men are designed to be decisive, because they have to go out there and fight big animals. They couldn't be thinking about emotions. You just got to think about, it's me and this lion, and it's me or him. So you're not thinking about nothing else. But like women, have to look after the children. They have to be able to like look at plants. Is this thing okay or not? Is this wilting? You have to like look at nuances. Men don't really look at the nuances, right? So we're built for this, and they're not. Men are not built for this, and there's some men who are better at it than others, and so forth. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but I loved her honesty because it's so true. And so you have to be able to give your husband a little bit of grace, which is difficult because this process, even though we're built for it, it's still difficult for the woman. So I'll give you an example. In the course of a night, Christopher and I both lose sleep. Right. But so he'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh man, I'm so exhausted. And I want to look at him like, brother, you want to go toe to toe about who is more exhausted. And so the comment is almost irritating. Like you still got more sleep than I did, because while the baby may have awakened you for a second or whatever, once I start nursing him, you fall back to sleep. But I have to keep nursing for whatever that's 30, 40 minutes if the baby wants to nurse that long or longer, and then put him back to sleep. So I've lost an hour of sleep, and I'm doing that 3-4 times a night. So like, you know, so you find yourself as a woman always getting on your husband's behind about it. Like, shut up, like, tired, what, please, back, what, you know, and you're doing that. And I do think, even though I fully agree with those feelings, I do think that a little bit of grace for a husband is necessary, because he is also feeling away. And then when you shut that down, like, what do you mean? I lost more sleep than you. It kind of isolates him from being able to talk about how he's feeling.
That's good. Yeah. Ladies. And I'm sure Tristen is typing some of this up right now. Remember how we talked about a few weeks back about extending grace in your marriage? It sounds like even more important once you bring children into the equation, having a child. That grace just extends throughout the life of your marriage. There's going to always be a need for it.
It is. And
always.
Ladies, let me also say this. I understand that that's also one more task that we have to do also. So to my sisters that are out there thinking, okay, great, we have to be there for the baby and do all this, and then we also have to give our husband grace. I totally understand that frustration. But, you know, everything is about choices, and you can choose how you want to play this in your marriage. You can choose to not give that grace and see how that works out for you and your husband. I'm not saying that threatening. I'm just saying you just see how that works out. Or you can make a choice to do something different. You know, I'm sure at you know, there's an ebb and flow, like we said before in marriages. I'm sure there's a time when your husband's also giving you grace that you're not realizing he's giving you too. Absolutely. And so, you know, here's a time where, even though it feels like one more thing you have to think about, because you have to think about this newborn totally, and now you got to think about your husband's feelings. It feels really unfair in the moment.
And let me just say this,
you know, I think it's important,
because the reason why, you know, I understand all of those feelings and I respect them and I appreciate them. Like, I recognize that when I wake up in the morning, my eyes are burning and I'm tired, that if I was awake for, you know, 4 hours, Fern was awake for 5 or 6 hours, right? So I recognize that. I'm simply
40 minutes, me 4 hours. Just get the ratios together.
Ratios matter.
So
40 minutes. Total. Yeah.
All right.
There's grace going on right now.
So could you see I'm just being quiet?
Yes, that's being grace.
Sorry.
That's a new Christmas.
I almost shut him down.
That's the God in me, people. Okay. So this is the thing. So it's not that I don't understand, you know, all of the things that women go through, and after all, they are actually carrying this baby. I'm just trying to bring forth, and why I keep focusing on it is because I'm trying to, like, bring forth the male perspective.
Sure.
And I feel like nobody talks about it.
Absolutely. What was the place that you were going to where you just got permission?
So this is the thing, and I think, you know, a woman is carrying the baby, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have a more traditional household like we do, where, you know, I'm, you know, kind of what I call myself as a tone setter, because I don't tell Fern what to do, but what I do is I set a tone, which kind of allows us all to go in a certain direction, which ultimately is beneficial for the family.
Absolutely.
So as a tone setter for my family, you know, I'm thinking about finances. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about where we're going to live. Is this house suitable for a child? You know, am I bringing in the kind of money today that I need to bring in for, you know, $30,000 a year daycare? Because folks don't tell you how much childcare really costs for a nanny, and she might be watching, so I'm not going to put her salary out there, for a nanny that costs X, you know, for all of these things that we need to buy to make sure that the child has all of the safety things that they need, and then some other comforts that they're, you know, getting all the things that they need to be able to compete with their peers the best that they can, or better, because we know how hard it is for kids who look like us. So all of this is sitting on my shoulders. Like, I understand that, you know, she's going through a lot physically and emotionally, but I'm sitting here thinking about all of these expectations, right? And I'm thinking about all these things that I have to do. And then there are these spoken expectations, but then there are a lot of unspoken expectations and expectations that I feel from my son, even though he's not here yet. All of that begins to weigh on you. So you have all of this going on, whereas before, if something stressful rolled around in our businesses, or Fern and I could find a way to meet, go out, vacation, travel, have a conversation. But, you know, things have changed so much between us. You remember our relationship started to creep, that outlet isn't there like it used to be. So it's like, I have my best friend and she lives with me, and there are all of these things that, you know, I've grown to know and love, which are disappearing slowly and slowly and slowly. And this continues. And even now, like, we're 8 weeks in, and I can still, and I see her trying to make, you know, an effort to, you know, so we can have more of what we used to have,
Right.
but like there are things that are still like kind of being taken out, and it's just a part of the process. So all of that's going on. So you're kind of feeling lonely at home. Then you're extra stressed. You know, I own my own business, and for all the business owners out there, you guys know the kind of stress that we go through every day. So, you know, every day, that's a conversation that really needs to be had. Because folks like see all the extra and they're like, oh, you know, Dawkins is doing great, you know, but payroll, expenses, changes, taxes. Let me tell you how the IRS wants like. Let me talk to you about how the IRS wants like 40% of what I make.
She just told me.
I told him, I said, I don't. I told him, I said, I don't have the money. Okay, I don't.
So
let's get back. Sorry.
That's okay. That's part of y'all's world, though,
Yeah.
and being providers.
True. And so all of these things had me stressed. I'm feeling kind of like lonely at home, and then I'm also feeling trapped. And so all of these things combined, and like literally, you know, I was having trouble, like no joke, like mentally keeping it together. We went to go see my counselor, and all I could tell him was like, I feel like I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown. No joke. No joke. And, you know, I think for some people who have, and no offense to people who live more in the box lives, but I think when you have a robust life where Fern and I are literally out of the country each month, outside of being out of the country each month, we're out of Houston at least twice a month. So we're taking like 3 trips a month.
Right.
Like we're at events, we're regularly out and about. So for people who have a life like us, that's really busy. Our work is fast paced. You know, she's doing deals, I'm doing deals. So like all of that excitement to then over the course of just 9 months or even less, because start having to like have that like screech kind of to a halt, and then have all this stuff shoved on you. So you don't have any of your outlets anymore, and then all this extra stuff is shoved on you. Like literally, I felt like I was suffocating, like I was about to have a nervous breakdown. And so I made the decision. We went to go see our counselor again because, and I'll just say this about mental health. I think that people are always like, my foot hurts, my back hurts, you know, my neck hurts. Let me go see somebody to take care of it. But nobody, you know, thinks, let me go check on my mental health on a regular basis. When ultimately your brain is the most important organ that you have.
Right.
Because once that messes up, you know, and you're out here strung out, or you've had a nervous breakdown and you're not right anymore, and people don't feel like they know you anymore. Once your brain is messed up, it's over. But as long as you still have your mind, you can kind of work through the rest. And I felt like I was losing parts of my mind that I understood and knew and needed to cultivate. So we went to go see the counselor again, and ultimately I just need to take a trip independently so I could think.
Little me time.
Medication.
I really, and it's important. Like I feel like everybody should be doing that. Even if you don't have the resources to take a trip like what I took, you know, go over to your brother's house and spend the weekend. You know, find a place of a place that you know what it's going to be, and you know that that's where you can talk to yourself and have really honest conversations about what's going on. Because all of life, I think, is really about putting things in perspective. I needed to put this situation all in perspective because it was all coming at me so fast and it was all happening so fast. There wasn't time to think through anything.
Wow.
And I think that people forget. It's like, so
the reality of it, I would say, right? Because we knew we were going to have a baby. We knew we were planning to get pregnant. So that people understand where this is going. It's like, well, you guys tried to get pregnant like last year. Yes. Yeah. But I think the reality of it and the parts of it that you don't know and that you don't understand, the emotions that sort of come with it, that's what was creeping up on Christopher sort of fast and furious.
That's real.
Because you think about it in this real like partridge family way, like, oh, we're going to have a baby and it's going to be great. Like all like the way, oh, it's the most amazing thing. And that's all people want to say. And I think people only want to say that because I think that having a conversation like this, you know, you feel like you're opening number one, you're making yourself vulnerable. You're opening yourself up for people to judge. There might be somebody watching this. It's like, oh, what's going on in their marriage? She said he almost had a nervous breakdown. The Dawkins on the edge. I mean, you guys can do that if you want to. It's not true. Right. You know what I mean? Right. But like, we're not concerned about being honest about this. Tearing away at the integrity of our marriage.
Absolutely.
You know, we're not concerned about that. But I understand why people would be. Because you might have a listening ear to this that's going to take this and try to run and say, oh, you must not want it to be parents, or I wonder if they're treating them kids right. You know, they never won them, or people will say all of these sorts of terrible things.
I don't even think about stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, people be judgmental.
Yeah. What I do say is, you know, you kind of hinted on it that they planned for this marriage. They knew that the child was coming. Yeah. They prepped for it, hamster sex and all. But really, we blame the friends because you didn't prepare them. Because
we
even though they
our
planned,
friends.
they weren't prepared.
Right.
So
Right.
I think we need to have going forward to have a conversation. People that have children,
Right.
hey, this is the real, because
This is the real.
you know,
Right.
they did everything that they thought was right, but still it's like, whoa.
And if you know, you
Yeah.
can kind of like, okay, this is what I'm supposed.
Yeah.
My hormones might change as well. I might start feeling more emotional than I've ever
Right.
felt in my entire life.
Right.
Had somebody told me that, I'd be like, well, I know what to expect.
Right. But see, guess what?
It's not like the bludgeonings of chance.
Y'all in this. Anyway, because they have taken, I want to take this life lesson because this is so important. I even felt this way when we started blogging and sharing about our marriage. This is why it's so important for us to share and not be afraid of being transparent. People connect with your transparency. We love a good struggle story. We love to hear how you were down here and came up here. But in order to do that, you have to be willing to share your truth, because who knew? I did not. These are friends, good friends. I did not expect to hear this kind of dialogue with them, but they are being very candid and saying, hey, if you go through this, just know you're not alone. It's very natural, common. And here's the way you resolve it. You go outside and you seek sound counsel. There's nothing wrong with that. I know in our community, it seems to be taboo for whatever reason, but mental health, like you said, is so important. And these things are very real. It is not just reserved for a certain color group.
Right.
It affects all of us in our marriages and so forth. And so, first of all, thank y'all so much for being so very, very candid. Y'all really have. If you could leave us with some Fern, just top 2 or 3 words of wisdom from the wife perspective, and then Christopher, top few things from a husband perspective.
Sure. I think, and let me just say this, and I think it's very important that, Christopher really shared his feelings, because we know a lot more, I would say, about the woman part, but there's not a lot that women still aren't talking about, right? Mm-hmm. We're not talking about postpartum depression. And even though that's a clinical diagnosis, we're not talking about just the general baby blues, because you may not become clinically depressed with postpartum depression, but every woman goes through the baby blues because your hormones are sort of rebalancing. There are plenty of nights when, I'm saying, sitting up nursing my son, and tears are just rolling down my face and I have no reason why, or you can't get the baby to be quiet, and you're doing everything that you can and you won't stop crying. You feel like he hates me. I'm a terrible person. Like, what's going on? Whatever your thoughts are, or you're feeling bad because you can't be intimate with your husband for a period of time. And so you're wondering when he's like, hey, I'm about to go out and have drinks. You're like, oh, what happens if, when he's out there, because I haven't been able to be, intimate with him. All of these things go through your mind. And we don't want to talk about that. I don't know why. I want to make it seem like, oh, everything's so perfect and it's so great and we're just at home loving on this baby. Or you can't even get through a show. Like we watch Family Feud. These days we watch Family Feud.
Golden
Girls.
Life has changed.
If you have a storyline, you can't look at it because the baby's only going to stay quiet, like maybe in 15-minute increments before he's screaming. You got to
We've been trying to watch the first season of. How about this? Like the second episode of
Billions,
the last season of Billions. We've been trying to watch for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not happening. So we look at things that don't require our attention. It really does change your life. And the things that you used to, like sitting home on a Saturday. I remember our nanny was telling us the other day, I was like, what are you doing this weekend? She's like, oh, I'm just going home. On Saturday, I think I'm just going to binge watch a show and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, tell me more. Like, it just sounded like, that sounds amazing. Like, I haven't binge watched anything in 8 weeks, which feels like 8 years. But so anyway, so ladies, yes, there's all of the things that we go through. Here's the nugget I want to leave you guys with for all the married couples out there. It's important and Christopher and I, what we're trying to convey is that we kind of planned and prepared for this in the most ideal of circumstances. And here we are sort of telling you there's still sort of an ugly truth to even this most beautiful thing, which of having a child and bringing a child into the world, right? So I think it's important that you prepare, because to me, what the biggest challenge is you hear everything Christopher had to say about how he's feeling, and you've heard some of how I was feeling, and women, we know so much more about what women go through. You're never really prepared for what happens when both parties are kind of down in your marriage, right? When your husband is sort of struggling emotionally with all of these things and you are too, and neither of you have any grace in your back pocket to give each other. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a real test of marriage. There are many nights where I started thinking about that. I was like, I don't know that I have any grace to give to Christopher to hear how he's feeling about this. And I know he doesn't have the mental space to hear me talk about my feelings.
Wow.
And where does that leave us? And I think being prepared for being in that position, and I don't know what's the best way to prepare for it. Maybe talk about it. Certainly go see a counselor, talk to friends. I think that's important, because that's where you end up. You kind of assume in a marriage, like, well, when I'm down, my husband will help me. And then when he's down, I'll help him. But this can bring you to a point where both of you are like literally at your wit's end, and how do you support each other in that way? And I do think that men should open up so much more. Like when you talk to your homeboys, like, hey, what was it like being a dad? You know, guys, I know you guys like to talk and be emotional, and that's fine, but do more than be like, man, it's difficult, bro, or whatever you guys said. These one-liners.
My brother was like, don't do it. That's all he gave. He's like, don't do it.
Don't do it. I told Christopher he should start a blog or a men's conference. I don't know.
If I had time, I would.
But I definitely think it's, the more open we are about it, I think the easier it is we can go through this, what is such a remarkable and beautiful thing, and you can get through this hazing period, much more easily.
Almost kind of like how we have premarital counseling, pre-baby counseling.
It should be. I think that it should be like the same way that you go and get checkups during, the pregnancy, the couple. And if they need it individually, because I think if we'd have started going to counseling more regularly during the pregnancy, I think that towards the end and even some of the things that we were going through over the last few weeks would have been a lot easier.
Right. Because you would have expected it.
You'd expected it.
Right.
And I'm not talking about like they should literally have counselors that what I do is I coach married couples through pregnancy.
Yeah. Ooh, that might be y'all's ministry. Christopher, I see it in your future.
Baby coach.
And before he starts, I'm saying one other thing. Here's another fact. Exhaustion is a symptom of depression or causative agent to depression, I should say. So even if you're like, I don't have any of these problems, who are these Dawkins? We're perfectly ready to have kids and we're happy and we're looking forward to it, and that's fine. But if you sleep deprive yourself or your spouse, you will necessarily feel depressed. It will sadden you. It will change your perspective on life. You won't be as sharp. And you take two people and you put them under circumstances where they're extremely exhausted, it's going to cause static. So, there are many facets to how this could play out in your marriage or in your journey to having kids and bringing in a new baby. But just remember that just biologically, the more exhausted you are, the more prone you are to feel sad, to feel depressed, to lose your perspective. So that in and of itself, just being sleep deprived, is huge.
Wow.
The question was, what are takeaways?
Yeah, just something that is daddy nugget. If somebody came to you and said, is it worth doing, man? What's up?
Reconsider.
Don't.
Resubmit. Sure.
I'm going to tell anybody not to do it. I think it's kind of like the same advice that I give people when they're talking about getting married, because that's a huge step that changes a lot too. If every fiber in your being, because it's going to be that kind of a test, if every fiber in your being isn't telling you this is what I need to do, don't do it. Because that's the kind of fortitude I think that it takes to not just make it through, but to make it through and be great. Because you don't want to just bring a child in this world being mediocre. You want to do it as fantastically as you can. So, and it's going to take every bit of your mental, your physical, et cetera, to do that. And we're still only at the beginning. So you guys, I'm sure you all have somebody on here who's, kind of gotten past this stage and will have some other nuggets to get to. So I'd say that. Then I'd also say that it's important for us to check in with us. Like, I think that men are oftentimes put in the situation where this is a situation, you deal with it quietly. It's not your job to say how you're feeling, to emote. It's your job to keep your head down, plug away, just deal. And I think that especially in the African-American community, it gets so many of us in trouble that we just keep our head down and we deal with the foolishness. Well, after a while, so much stuff can pile up on you. And don't let it pile up. If you're feeling away in a day, your feelings and how you're feeling about a situation matter. What you ultimately know that you need, even if it's not the, what's going to make your wife the happiest or, the people who are the closest to you the happiness. If you know you need a weekend, I'm not telling you to take a month. If you know you need a weekend or a few days, take that weekend or a few days, because I think it makes more sense for you to come back and be the best person you can be versus continuing to struggle in the situation.
And please do it the way that Christopher did. Like, explain to your wife why you need this time away from her, because automatically she's going to think something completely
and
different.
Disappear.
And don't
it didn't necessarily go over as beautifully as that he's making it sound here.
No, it didn't. No, Fern was upset, but I think when Fern saw me when I came back, I think ultimately she was.
And I think that's why I can say retrospectively too, because if you're in if your husband's in Christopher's situation, he's not actually going to be able to explain why he needs to take the trip.
Okay.
So it's going to be difficult. Women, we're so good at putting our emotions into words, and we can articulate very beautifully, exactly to the T, exactly how we're feeling, right? And men can't do that. And so he may not be able to articulate what's going on. So you're like, what the hell?
Right.
You know what I mean? This is stupid. I'm X amount of, I'm very pregnant? Why are you leaving? All this kind of stuff. It's going to be problematic. But if you're hearing this and then you get to this place and you remember what I'm saying to you now, this is when you kind of extend your first little bit of grace to him, because he may not be in a position to tell you exactly why he needs to go away or why he wants to spend some time apart from you. And try your hardest, and it's very difficult not to take it personally, because it's not about you. It's about him making sure that he's his best self for you going forward, you and the baby.
Wow. Ooh, y'all have. I wasn't even ready for this conversation. Like, I actually thought y'all were going to be like, oh, this baby get up every hour and I got to breastfeed.
He does.
But that's to the extent of
we know about
that conversation is going to be. And you're right. That's the part that we know about. But goodness, y'all have exposed truly the bare naked truth of that first phase of deciding you're going to be parents. Mm-hmm. And the preparation, just like with marriage, y'all, the preparation is so key. And it extends beyond just saying, do we have enough money in the bank? Are we ready? I mean, I love the fact that you all, I don't even know if we would have done it, but I love the fact that you all went and got counseling behind it, because it's more than just, okay, you agree? Yes. Okay, I agree. Right. Great. Let's go. Right. They just tell you be on the same page, but they don't tell you how important it is to sit down with someone and really plan this out as much as you can, because it's going to be a big change. Yeah. And for the people who just say, oh, we want to have kids to pass on a legacy to, and la, 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 that's beautiful. And to have someone take care of us when we get older.
That kills me when people say that.
Yeah.
Like, when I hear people say, like, oh, well, somebody has to take care of me, I'm like, is that what?
That's
what?
Yeah.
I think that's crazy.
And you have to do it too. This preparation, it's not just for us and maintaining the integrity of our marriage. Because look, this kid's going to grow up and marry somebody else and may not want to talk to us. That's what we forget. Yes. Right? We need to protect this so that when our children are grown and gone, we can still love each other into our, into retiring.
And then just look at the math of it. Isn't it something like, depending on lifestyle, of course, till 18, $150,000 raise a kid?
Well, that's like average. So think about people, and I'm sure your audience too, like who we want our kids to be and the kind of resource we have to throw at them. Yeah. So we're talking closer to probably $500,000.
Yeah, so easily between $150,000
to $500,000, and if you just save that money yourself, you can take care of yourself when you get older.
That's very true. So don't have children for that reason, but you also want to preserve this.
And you don't want to put that burden on a kid.
That's another.
You better make your own money and set up your own life estate and everything else that you need.
We're speaking for all the unborn children out there. Right. No, but it's true. Like,
don't be a burden on your kids. They're trying to live.
Right. Protecting our marriage and the integrity of our marriage is important for him, because we don't want our son being crippled by our insecurities, our failure to plan, our failure to understand the demands that he is going to put on our lives, because it's not his fault. And so many people, we've seen it, and some of us have experienced it from our own parents, right? So it's very important to us that, you check in, you understand, all of the functions that are going on with you, because you have to parent this child, this innocent child. And you can't put off all of those failures on your part to plan, to think things through, all this on the kid, and make him feel like he's inconvenienced you.
That's good. But I love the point that you just made, and I'm going to let you finish, Christopher, that this is number one.
This is number one. This is
number one. And a lot of us get this out of whack, especially as women, because that baby needs so much of us, and that somehow becomes number one.
Kids are ancillary to your relationship.
That's it.
Kids are just the product of the love that you have in your relationship. And the moment that you start to place a kid above your relationship, I think is a moment that things start to go terribly wrong.
That is it. Wow. That is so, so true. Do not get the order mixed up once you start having children.
And let me say this, we're in week 8 now, and I'm starting to see it's going to be definitely a new normal, right? But I'm starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. I'm starting to see us we've been out 2 or 3 times now, so I'm starting to see us being
brunch.
To brunch.
Come on, brunch.
I'm starting to see us, being able to get back to some of the things. So while our relationship has inexorably changed for sure, I can tell that through this, there'll be a new normal that we're able to work through and grow through. So.
Absolutely. And enjoy.
Yes.
Because as that baby,
we're still working on enjoying it.
That comes when baby gets older.
He does cute things every now and again. I'm I see you over here trying to make it.
I see Christopher over there just looking at the baby
I side eye all day.
See, let's hear real quickly from our people. I want to thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight.
Yes, thank you guys.
Good time.
Sheldon Mitchell over there. He is a fan of the worst team in the NFL, the Cowboys. He tagged his wife. Thank you, Shavonna, for saying good conversation. We're glad that you are enjoying this as well. Tia Gibson, her and her husband are both entrepreneurs as well. They did pre-baby counseling, so good job on that.
Yeah. Now, hopefully that becomes a norm.
It needs to be a norm. if you can afford to do it, just do it.
Absolutely.
But y'all going to be baby coaches, so that's a new
I think that
offering your own.
What does that pay? I don't think that.
Check into that. That might be pretty good. That might supplement that
You know
college
what?
education.
You remember, I'm not trying to share information. Like I don't mind sharing if you ask me, but I'm not trying to like hear folks' problems.
See, and this is why you didn't have the information.
I know,
because
somebody I
to
know.
look at you part of the problem,
Ooh.
not part of the solution.
But
I feel like
hopefully this will,
coming
the
up on
proliferation
y'all.
of this.
Can
will
I
be-
just make a quick note? Being business, those of you out there who are business owners, I will say people think that our lives are so convenient because you own your own time and all that kind of good stuff. And that's true to some degree.
No, that means you're
but
on 24 hours a day.
The one time that I wished I was still working for a company was when I had this baby, because you can be on maternity leave. Your boss can't email you, like none of that. Like you literally turn it off and your company has to figure out whatever they got to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
But as a business owner, like I'm in the hospital, checking emails. I have leases to sign. There are things going on. I'm apologizing to people. I found myself, I'm sorry, I had a baby. He came a little early. I'll get back to you. Sorry, I missed your email. And making apologies for having this.
No, they're like, congrats.
Yeah, right.
Your mama could have died.
Yeah. So that is also a challenge. If you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're a female entrepreneur and you're thinking about having kids, understand that depending on how your business is set up, maybe put yourself in a position where you can turn it off if you can, but we know that's probably not going to be the case. You still have to be the executor of your business, and that can in and of itself provide some interesting challenges.
Well, just to summate, if I can somehow, all of these golden nuggets, the very first part of it is the preparation. I just cannot tell you, when it comes to marriage and having children, preparation, I think that's the secret to a happy marriage is preparation. People try to say communication, all those things are great, but if you are not prepared for not the if it happens, but when it happens, marriages go through seasons, they ebb and flow, as our guest said. So just being prepared. What Christopher and Fern did, to me, sounds like the textbook idealistic way to try to prepare for something that you have no idea you're preparing for if you can.
But the friends let them down.
But he will not let go of the friends. So if you,
and neither have we. We took names and we
wrote them down and permanent
side-eyed all y'all.
If you're one who are now going through something like this, please feel, as much as you can, try to share with someone else. All of us have to go through this journey one way or the other. So if you can start sharing, start being open, a little open. You don't have to tell all your business, but as much as you can do to help someone, do it, because our families, some of them are struggling. Yeah. And I know what you see on social media. I get it. It looks beautiful. Don't y'all believe social media. It looks beautiful, but
I stopped posting.
I didn't post it at all.
I said, I'm not going to tell y'all these lies.
Look, we saw him as an infant. We'll see him when he's 18 on social media. That's about it. Graduation. That's true. But I want to thank y'all again so much for tuning in with A Word with the Wife Coach. I hope that this has been helpful for you. Please share it with those that you know who are getting ready to embark upon this journey. It is a beautiful journey, as we heard, but it is a real journey as well. And as much as you can prepare or help prepare others, you'll be better off. I want to thank again Fern and Christopher.
Thank
y'all
you for having us on.
Every time. It doesn't matter if it's on the camera, off camera. These two are so real and so transparent. And just know that your marriage will continue to be blessed because of y'all's transparency. I mean that wholeheartedly. I know when I started doing the blogging and talking and stuff, I was like, Lord, just protect the marriage, please. Yes. And he does just that. So if you find yourself sharing more in this space, do it with an open heart, because it's helping so many people. So I just want y'all to know that.
So that's the goal.
Yes. And I want to thank Shug Sutton here for holding it down. Shug Spielberg for keeping y'all engaged. I want to thank you all at home. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Be blessed. And thank you for joining us and helping make marriage great again.
Thank you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.